You're listening to Ramble with Intent. I'm your host, Lisa Szabon-Smith, visual strategist, advocate, ambition guide, and public speaker. I'm here for the dreamers, the doers, and all of the possibilities in between. Through my experiences as a world-class athlete, coach, graphic designer, wife, parent, and all the other life experiences that we have, and the amazing stories with my incredible storytellers, we get to connect how advocacy is not that far off in our everyday lives. Let's ramble. Hello everyone. Today I'm so excited to be welcoming back Ninu Lammens of Women's High Vibe Health so that we can dive deeper into navigating our health and navigating the healthcare system when the doctors say that there's nothing wrong with us, but we know deep down inside there's something going on. Who do we turn to next? How do we find the help that we need so that we can pinpoint the root cause? So without further ado, let's dive in and learn more from Ninu. All right, so we're going to talk about navigating the healthcare system. Yeah. I'm excited for this. So this is years ago now, probably like 2013. And I started working with a client in the fitness world, and she had a child that was in the medical system. And it was I forget what the condition was, but she would literally walk around with like the folder of all of the paperwork for every single doctor appointment that she went to. And she said there was a point where we actually just let the paperwork stay in the one doctor's office. But then we were referred to another clinic. They never had that paperwork because it was never shared or sent over. So she's like, I pulled it all and now we travel with it everywhere because I have to advocate for my child and for their health. And if my doctors aren't going to do it through communication, then I'm going to be the one having to do it and have all of that information too. And from that point forward, it was like, it's a fair point. Granted, things have changed technologically, but that's a fair point. Like to be able to have, especially if you have health issues, to have that documentation with you so that if you needed to move to a different doctor, to a different country, whatever the case may be, you have that stuff rather than having to, at the time of necessity, go and get it. You just have it immediately right away too. We put so much reliance onto like that one form of the medical system is simply that documentation. I don't have my documents with me, but thankfully I'm very healthy.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think that sometimes the outsiders looking in think that it's a more organized system than it is. And, there's a paper trail for most things, but unless you advocate for getting copies of it yourself, then it's going to be really hard to put that all together if it's not all entered, in the right way, in the right system, and the doctors aren't looking back for it. So I think it's really important anytime you do get any lab test, CT scan, MRI, blood test, anything, that you always ask for a copy. And now in Alberta, I don't know about other provinces, but we have the My Health system, right? So myhealth.alberta, where the My Health records, I should say, that you can go and access. The majority of your things will be in there uploaded after you've got them done. So simple things like analysis, blood work, and scans. If it's something that requires a doctor to talk to you first or something like that, in some cases it won't be uploaded right away, but it will after. So that's a really good hub, but it only has the information from since the program's been started. So last year or so. So anything prior to that, if you have a complex medical history, you're going to want to go and seek that out so that you can get copies of that.
Yeah. So our conspiracy theory minded friends, my health records, it's not a digital, it is a digital location for your information to be, but it does not fall under that whole conspiracy theory of digital ID, correct?
Well, you don't have to, it's no different than registering for a webinar. You basically give your healthcare number, your name, the same information you would go if you went to a walk-in clinic, basically. There's nothing beyond that. And the information that they're uploading in there is the same as if you went to your doctor and asked for a paper copy. So, there's no digital code, or I haven't seen anything like that in there. Coming from being in healthcare, it's basically a data bank that's secure for you to access your own documents and print them off or keep track of them. Yeah. And what it might be used for in the future, I can't say. But as of right now, it's just like a place to pull off your blood work rather than going to the doctor. Like, for example, I majorly sprained my thumb like maybe 7 weeks ago, and I got an ultrasound done. And all I needed to know from the ultrasound is, is there some sort of damage that needs surgery or not? And so I went in there and looked and I read the report myself. And I was like, okay, well, it's not a major issue. So I'm not even going to go in and follow up. And that's just because I know that. But obviously you should follow up if you don't know how to interpret these things. But I read it and I was like, okay, well, it's just a sprain. So I'm just going to ride it out and wear a brace or whatever. So that saved me the trip, right? And then I always have that record of when my thumb was injured, this is the, info. And then you could print it off right away so that in case you ever don't want to use that system, you have the copy anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I know like when it was first released, there was a whole lot of don't do it. Things that people were so skeptical of because it's medical information. In theory, I think because it was new in the mind being held in a public space. But I mean, we put a lot of faith into our Netflix passwords and our email passwords and what our email inboxes hold. So in the end, like if you're worried about your health records being online, then you should double check how you use the internet and other ways as well, as slightly my point of view. But
yeah, and anything is, can be broken into, there's emails all the time from AHS too saying like, these health records were, accessed in Edmonton, these days, these people, and then they get contacted. And that was like a breach from like a hacker or whoever. So there's stuff like that always going on. Like, I think that when it comes to like finances, health, private information, there's always somebody and money, someone always trying to break the system or get into it. But the people that are uploading it are the same people who have the original copies. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. I hear you 100%. Okay, so for people who actually haven't listened to our first interview on more so on women's health and what you're able to offer through your functional integrative nurse practitioner components, can you introduce yourself again, Ninu, and just let us know about your expertise, your knowledge, and where we're at, and then maybe segue into what we're planning on moving forward to chat about now.
Yeah, you bet. So my name is Ninu. I'm born and raised in Calgary. We just live outside of Calgary now on an acreage. I'm trying to want to be hippies and homesteaders. We always kind of had that vision, but we didn't really make it happen until a couple of years ago. I went into nursing to become a registered nurse, not a nurse practitioner, which is what you had said, but an RN. That's okay. An RN 17 years ago through the U of C. And I went down that path because I truly thought it was health. Like, back then when we didn't have access to the internet at our fingertips, and naturopathy was like, I don't even know if I've even heard that word or anything to do with integrative or functional anything. So I thought, okay, well, I'm really interested in health and helping people become healthy. So therefore I must go in healthcare. And I went into nursing thinking that I would have a really important role to play. Like, I'd really be able to help people. But I learned really quickly, like even in my first and second year of nursing, that patients were in and out like a revolving door and discharged with no education on like lifestyle, on nutrition, on stress, on anything. Just like, here's your prescription, like don't stop taking it, see you later. And I started to see that I couldn't make an impact there, and those patients deserve more. And so at that time, I just knew they deserved more and a more holistic way of looking at health. And then I really felt at odds in my heart. I was like, I can't do a job I don't feel aligned with. So I ended up telling my husband, I was like, I think I should just find a job in nursing that I can like sit with and like feel good about. So I found a job in preventative health, and I flew all around Canada. Every day we flew on my boss's private jet. And he was a billionaire philanthropist, really wealthy guy. The whole thing was nonprofit. So everything we did for all the patients was free and covered. So we would fly out, test their blood, educate them on all the things he believed in, which was holistic health. We were taking out mercury fillings for free. We were doing heavy metal detoxes. Like, this was a long time ago, and he was on like the cutting edge. And so I was like, finally, I'm working in a job where I feel good about it and we're actually helping people. And it opened my eyes that people could reverse illness. They could reverse diabetes, high blood pressure, get off medication. Because we were working with oil field workers like in Fort Mac. We were working with people who are homeless, the First Nations who had very limited health care access. And it was awesome. So thereafter, I went on mat leave with 2 kids. After my second child, I really ran into my own health like hiccups. And so I was like, oh, I guess it's my turn to, use this healthcare system that I'd kind of dodged until then because I never needed it. But my son that was then like 1 and 2, he literally didn't sleep for 2 years. So it really destroyed my gut, my immune system, my skin, my mood, my hormones. So I went to doctors like you should, right? You should be a good girl and go to see the doctor. So I'm like, well, let's see what they really have to offer. Like, I'm going to be on the patient side of this for the first time in my life. And, they ran all the blood work and it was all like normal, right? And I was like, okay, it can't be. And I knew that they couldn't help me. I just knew, I was like, see, all these years I was doubting them and I was right. They really can't, because they're not looking for the root cause. So I really refused to think that everything was normal. And it sent me down like a deep dive rabbit hole into integrative and functional health. I took a lot of education courses, programs after that, and then ran tests on myself to realize that I really had leaky gut dysbiosis, candida. I had mineral deficiencies. I had estrogen dominance, all the things that I now have a program to help you reverse. I ran into those. And when I was able to get answers, then I put myself back together and I haven't looked back. And I kind of left that system more or less to help people get the answers they're not getting at the doctors.
That's amazing. And you touched on mercury fillings, and it just twigged. I had a former client, I was a personal trainer, so I was on the receiving side of the medical system of, you just need to start walking 3 times a day or whatever the case may be for doctor diagnosis on issues. I had one client, he was a retired dentist. And he got into biological dentistry. And through that, like my time with him, I learned so much on even just the negative impact of mercury fillings and root canals alone. And
yeah,
it's mind-boggling. Things that are like commonplace. We don't think anything of it because it's what we're told is the right thing to do. And then you start learning the deeper components of it, or the people who have been negatively impacted by it. And then you start getting those red flags. And then it was people around me were starting having symptoms that matched what those symptoms were discussed through this dentist. And it was just like, wow, you need to go look into this because there's a connection here for sure. And it's mind-boggling. So when it comes into learning now for a lot of us, because we have, Google at our hands, or we have this deeper connection with other people, we feel like, or even we have a better comfort level with accessing people such as yourself for this information and whatnot, when it comes to like advocating for yourself within the health system and learning how to navigate that. What does that look like from your perspective?
Well, I think that we're taught to think that when we have a health problem, we go to a doctor. But I want to rejig people's mindset and perspective, that I want you to imagine like a pie, and that pie has like 8 pieces. One piece of that pie is a physician. Okay, one piece. But we think that the whole pie is the doctor and everything else is alternative and it's not really going to work. It's not effective. But the pie includes the doctor, but it also includes functional integrative testing. It includes acupuncture, self-care, your environment. There's all these other aspects of your health and all these other service providers, like, whether it's Chinese medicine or it's Reiki or energy healing or, EMDR or mental health stuff that are part of the pie to keep you well. And so the piece of the pie that the physician is in, or even a specialist, is if you are already at the point where you have a disease and like while you're working on the root cause, you need medication or you need surgery because, it's an emergency, or you broke your arm or your heart stopped or your brain has a bleed in it. This is where that piece of the pie comes in. It's emergency and acute care. But when it comes to chronic illness, and that's the majority of the population, there's rarely a person that walking around that doesn't have some form of chronic issues that stem from their gut or stress or both. So the rest of the pie is what we should work on, because that's where we need to look for chronic health, right? Like our nutrition, our gut health, our stress levels, our lifestyle, our environment, and then using those other service providers like acupuncture, Reiki, self-care, like even massage, lymphatic work, like these things will get you well. And then that piece of the pie is reserved for when there is an emergency. In my mind, being in the healthcare system for 17 years, they're not going to save you, like in terms of from your chronic problem. They will save your life if you're in a motor vehicle crash, but not from your chronic problems that you're looking to them for answers. Because as we talked about in the first episode, I believe we did, they're not looking for root causes, right? They're testing your blood, and your blood is the last stage to change in your whole body. Your blood is the most tightly regulated fluid. So if you're just waiting to go back, in 6 months, and now your blood work's going to show something and it's going to help you, it's literally just pushing you further down the road to be diagnosed with disease, which will indicate which medication they're going to give you. And that's the only thing waiting at the end of their rainbow path is a medication. So unless you want to go that route, it's so important to start looking elsewhere.
So you specialize in gut health. That is where you put most of your focus, because it is an indicator for pretty much everything else. There's a reason why the phrase "go with your gut" is a phrase, because your gut actually is a part of your brain, but not part of, but it has a functioning component to it. But are there other areas that people can identify, be it maybe it's not in their gut, they're identifying an issue, but is it joint? Could it be just chronic muscle issue? Could it be not sleeping well? Those things.
So, well, everything will boil down to inflammation and stress. Every single symptom that anyone has is inflammation and stress, from cancer to joint pain to autoimmune disease to migraines to hormone issues, PCOS, all of it. All of it is going to come down to stress and inflammation. So we have to work backwards and say, where's that stress and inflammation coming from? So when we look at it, the only part of our body that connects the outside world to the inside world is our digestive system. Okay. So if you imagine like a cylinder, like this bottle, this cylinder goes from our mouth to our bum, right? And this cylinder is the outside world going in, right? But it can't access our blood out here or our brain unless it passes through this gut, this tube. Now, what passes through this gut is critically important because it's going to touch our blood, our brain, and affect our joint, our perception of pain, and our development of inflammation and disease. When this gut lining, which has very small, tiny microscopic passageways, gets damaged, those passageways start spreading bigger and bigger. So now when you're consuming whatever it is and it has any amount of bacteria in it or food proteins, it is spilling out from the cylinder, from the outside world, whatever you brought in from the outside, into our body. So everything does always actually originate in the gut. Okay. And so our gut will have the power to control our metabolic function, how many calories we extract from food, whether we develop autoimmune disease because we trigger our immune system every time we leak things out and hit our immune system in the blood. We're triggering. So if you're triggering every day because you have a gut issue, but you don't solve it, then that will develop into an autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's, which is autoimmunity of the thyroid, or celiac disease. And so our gut's always a place to start because it's our only connection from the outside to the inside world. And it's our only barrier to keep us safe from anything that's damaging in the outside world, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. So if I have some sort of issue, something's not feeling right, or it just keeps repeating and coming back, step one for me would be to consider what I'm eating.
It would be. So a lot of times I think people make the mistake that they think it's all about the food. So I have clients that cut out like gluten and dairy, and then they don't get better. So they come to me and they go, I exercise and I don't eat gluten and dairy, and I'm still bloated and I have PMS and I have all these problems. And then some people get food sensitivity testing, which we could talk about. And then they end up cutting out more foods, developing food fear and being on a restricted food list, and they're no better for it. So it's not always about the food. It's about the gut bugs and how diverse are they and how robust and healthy are they? And are they eating those foods? Are they processing them effectively? And if there's abnormality in the gut, then when you eat, you'll get symptoms. If you have a healthy gut, when you eat, you don't get symptoms. It really boils down to that. So you should be able to, as a human, eat a wide diversity of food with no symptoms, no indigestion. I don't care if it's a steak, I don't care if it's a greasy burger, you still shouldn't feel heavy and weighed down if you have healthy digestion. Our bodies are intended to eat all macronutrients without a struggle. So we're not meant to be carnivore or keto or vegan. We're meant to eat really balanced.
How we eat, no name to how we eat.
Exactly. There's no actual one diet.
We just
right?
eat.
Yeah, it's called food.
Yes.
It's called real food.
It's
But
called.
yes. So in terms of addressing food, it is important. Like in my program, it's the first thing we touch on is nutrition, but it's also, in what environment you eat. So are you stressed? Are you chronically stressed? Because that's going to impair your digestive system. So when I mentioned everything comes down to stress and inflammation, if you are stressed and you just got some bad news and you're really worried about it, and you are used to stress eating to cope with your feelings. So then you go through the drive-through and you get A&W and you wolf it down because you got to get to your kids like pick up for school or whatever. That meal is not going to be digested well because when we're in fight or flight, our stomach acid levels drop and our digestion is not prioritized. So our brain is like, this person's in danger. Who gives a crap about food? Let's put the blood into the muscles because we need to be able to run. So that's why people have chronic muscle soreness, stiffness, not talking about joint pain, but more about actual, they give you a hug and you're like, oh, like my tissues just hurt. It's because they're constantly filled with blood, ready to flee from the bear. So you could eat that same burger. I could say, I'm going to go pick up my kids and I choose to have a burger today. I could go drive to wherever it is and eat that teen burger and eat it slowly, mindfully, and enjoy it and digest it perfectly fine compared to the person who ate it stressed, rushed, worried, off to go somewhere. So stress is always going to be pivotal for digestive health 100% of the time. If that's not figured out, then people don't get better. And there's also a component in my program about the nervous system because it is so important.
All right. So back to eating like the Italians at 9:00 at night with all of your friends and some good music and some good wine.
Maybe not at 9.
Okay, fine. Not at 9.
But it's truly enjoying your food with a sense of community and really tasting the flavor and enjoying the preparation of it, rather than feeling like we're too busy in our modern life to even sit down and have a meal. Like there's something wrong with that,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't really like labeling it as a North American way, but it has become that stereotypical North American way of living is we jam pack our schedules. We are so overwhelmed. Everything is tight and we never schedule in sitting down to eat properly or eat slowly, have that conversation. And even if we do, I've noticed for the most part, if we're sitting down to eat a meal, it's still rushed because you still have something else to do afterwards. And I mean, even my household, we might not eat quickly, but the cleanup is quick afterwards. And it's not taking that time to just like sit there and have a conversation and digest while the plates are empty and you're now actually having like that healthy closure of the meal, right? And that's my fault 100% because I'm like, we gotta do dishes and then it's bedtime.
You're not the only one.
I can see how because those are minor stressors. Being time starved is a minor stressor, but over time it just layers on top of each other too.
Yeah. So it's a bit of both. Like I have a fun little story. I have a client who joined my program maybe like 2 months ago, and her partner, like she's engaged, her partner has been eating the meals that are part of the kind of lowering inflammation plan that we have in the first 30 days. So he was eating the meals that she was making because she was obviously cooking for both of them. Yeah. And she was implementing like the stress reduction practices that I talk about around eating. And he had lost 7 pounds in doing nothing else but lowering inflammation with the food and eating mindfully. And so she joked and she said, he wanted me to tell you that he lost 7 pounds in 7 weeks or something like that. And I think it was like more like 3 weeks. And then she said, Plessy, always make sure that we're eating mindfully and not rushed and we're chewing our food. And I said, that is the cutest thing I've ever heard, that your partner is concerned about eating mindfully. Like, and I just think it's so cool that people can realize that they can impact so much about what's going to happen after they consume a meal, or how it's going to be integrated into their body just based on how they approach that food.
And you know, it's funny, because really it's promoting that rest and digest stage as well, correct?
100%.
Yeah. So I remember even sometimes these days, you know, you go for a massage and it can put you into rest and digest, and your stomach is just going. And most of us will apologize for that gurgling stomach sounds and everything because we're trained to be embarrassed by it. But every masseuse or every practitioner that I've worked with, and oh my goodness, my stomach, they're like, no, that is such a good sign. That means you trust us and you're relaxed. You want to hear that more and more. And so it's like, sometimes it becomes an indicator at bedtime too, for myself or even for my daughter, that if the stomach's starting to make those gurgling, digesting sounds, it's like, okay, you're actually in the right stage. It's okay. It's not a bad sign.
Yeah. And having hunger signals is a really important cue of health. And so many people, especially women, are going around and they wake up and they're not hungry and they're getting their coffee. Then they're going to go do their fasted workout. Then they're going to, it's 11 o'clock and they're starting work and they're like realizing that they haven't had anything to eat. And then they're like, maybe I'll grab another coffee and grab a granola bar. Maybe I'll eat lunch later. And they don't have hunger cues because they are shutting it down with cortisol and they're fueling that with coffee. And their digestive system is really turned off because of that stress response. So waking up and having an appetite and being hungry and feeling like you're a machine in a way. We are organisms, just like a bear would need to wake up and get food. We're the same. And if we don't, like, would a bear just wander around and be like, I'm just going to pass by those berries, I'm too busy like looking around? Like, no, it would be like its number one instinct to find fuel, to give itself energy to do the things it needs to do, like procreate or whatever. So we're the same. And we've gotten so far away from that food has become like an inconvenience, a source of weight gain. There's further things wrong with that situation. It's not about the food.
Yeah. Yeah. And just random question. Is it the hormone ghrelin that's in the stomach that is in charge?
Ghrelin?
Yes. How did you say it?
Ghrelin.
Ghrelin. Thank you. That's what indicates hunger, or is that what indicates you being full?
Hunger. So we have a hunger hormone and a fullness hormone, and they work, in more or less in opposites, right? And we need to be able to satiate those hormones by ensuring we are eating enough, but those hormones will get shut down if there's too much cortisol in the body. So there's too much stress in the body, too much insulin. It screws with the ghrelin and leptin signaling, as does alcohol, as does lack of sleep, and then stress hormone. So a lot of people, what are they doing? They're drinking wine in the evening with dinner. They're sedentary. They to-do list day, and they ran around and missed meals. They put themselves in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, they don't feel hungry, the next day. Or the opposite, they keep eating and eating and don't feel full. They're eating a lot of foods that aren't nourishing or satisfying or blood sugar stabilizing. And then they end up, feeling like they're binging, like they're in this binge and restrict like cycle.
Yeah. And because there's also people in stress situations where they actually are not hungry and they don't stress eat. They actually stress starve instead too.
That's the majority of people, right? But they don't even, the women that do this, I don't think they even know, because they're the ones doing the fasted workout on coffee and like maybe a bit of fat in their coffee. Like maybe they're putting butter in it or MCT or something like that. And then they're going at 45 and they're like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing the fasted workout. I'm doing the, fasting for women, and they're still not seeing results. It's a clue that your body's already stressed. You don't need to add more stress to it. And I don't know how many more ways I can say this to people, but I'm like literally on like my microphone being like, stop stressing your body out when it's already showing you signs of stress. You're not going to heal a body that is like scared to function because it's worried that there's danger, because your modern day danger: over exercise, under eating, late nights, blue light, toxic stuff you're using on your skin and your body, right? Like these are creating stress. It's not just social emotional stress. There's so many forms of stressors.
Yeah. Yeah. And the body only identifies stress as stress. It doesn't label it as good stress, bad stress. We'll get through it stress. It's just straight up stress because we are designed primitively to survive. And that
100%.
is the foundation of it. So when it comes to navigating that health system, and we don't realize that at first that, whatever the issue is a gut related, stress related issue. We go to the doctor runs us through, I don't know what they'll run us through, goes through his tests, and we're not getting any improvements. What is something that someone could do right now today to either find a way to manage their stress or, like you said, mindful eating, change the way they eat their meals? But is there something else that you would give as like a main piece of advice for someone to just a small but impactful change they could do today?
Well, there's so many things I got to think about this. So most women are going to their doctors for a digestive issue, right? So either bloating, diarrhea, constipation, or a skin issue, acne, eczema, hives, allergies, or a food issue, anxiety, depression, an energy issue, fatigue, or like weight issues. So if they went in and to a doctor with any one of those symptoms, a doctor is going to say, okay, well, let's run some blood work, and they'll run a generic CBC, like a complete blood count. They might run your liver function, depending on if you're saying you have abdominal pain. And then they might run a B12 or a ferritin if you talk about energy, or you say you're down and fatigued and have no energy. So those are the things they'll run. Most of those should come back normal because blood is that homeostatic fluid that only changes when disease is already here. But something like B12 might show up low. So then they might go, oh, bingo, here, take some B12. If that doesn't and everything is normal, and then they go back home and they're like, they either feel gaslit by their doctor, ignored, not heard. They feel lost on where to go next. Everyone comes into a different place. Some people are already kind of further down the path of they're doing some right things, like they are, exercising or they are drinking enough water, and then others aren't doing those basics. So it really is hard to say one thing, but for every single person, sleep is queen, always. So if they can dial in a nighttime routine, put away the Netflix 4 episodes of whatever show, and do a nighttime routine that includes some amount of breath work, meditation, guided visualization or body scan, and then something like legs up the wall, like just putting your legs up the wall or up the bed kind of thing for 10 minutes, and then going to bed by 10 p.m. That would be a foundational thing to do every day for the rest of your life for optimal health. I can't say it enough, because after 10 p.m., because we're these primitive beings, and I'm certified in primal as a primal health coach too, but so I bring everything back to our ancestors. At 10 p.m., if we weren't in that cave in the dark, then our brain goes, okay, Ninu's not in the cave. It's not dark yet. She must be looking out for lions and danger. So let's start pumping up her stress hormone, give her energy in case she needs to run away from the danger. So if you wait till after 10, that cortisol goes up, and now it's 10:30, now it's 11, and you're like, okay, I guess I should go to bed now. And you put your head down on the pillow, your stress hormone is up, which means your melatonin is down. You don't feel sleepy. You feel wide awake, and your mind starts racing about the day, about things you got to do. And then you're like, oh, I can't sleep again. I'm just a night owl. Like, I just wish I didn't have to get up so early for work. But very few percentage-wise people, I think it's like 1% of the world, are actually night owls. Most people have a dysregulated circadian rhythm. So I would highly, highly suggest that they start to work their bedtime back to being 10 p.m. before that cortisol spike happens, and then being able to get that circadian day-night rhythm. So in the morning when they get up, being sure that they get their naked eyeballs out to the sun in the morning. So if they're not doing that already, which most people don't, that two sides of the same coin, night and day, are foundational. So do that and start to lower inflammation and turn on the right signaling for hunger, digestion, hormones, energy, and sleep.
Yeah, I love that you said cave. Your bedroom should be a cave too, and it should not have the TV in there, and it should not have your devices in there, and it should be low lit. It should not be super bright. And there's so many things that, like, if you're just starting off and you fall under maybe worst case scenario, You're not doing the water thing. You're not doing all of that. Just go read about sleep and light. And that will hopefully enlighten you enough. And then hopefully, if you have children, create practices that you can pass on to your kids so that they don't have to go through what you're going through right now as an adult.
Yeah. And say the woman that the mom that's like, I can't because my toddler is waking me up in the night, or my 4-year-old will not sleep on their own. Or I had a client that's like, my cat will like wake me up multiple times a night. And she's like, I can't put my cat outside of our room because then she pees everywhere. And I'm like, okay, well, we have to figure out what our priorities are. Yeah. So a couple things there. If that's the case for you, where you can't get in an uninterrupted sleep, you can't go to bed by 10 because you have a newborn and they're up every 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is, then making sure you're really well nourished during the day to offset that stress. So if your body's already stressed because you're not sleeping enough, then during the day, make sure that you don't miss meals, that you are eating enough calories. Because I think every single client I have ever worked with is under eating. We think that people are overeating because we have a society that's over fat and under muscled, but we are under eating as a society, as women, like the very, very few calories. So making sure that you're eating enough solid meals to firstly form a bowel movement, second, feed your gut, third, get nutrients, it's pivotal. So then make sure that you're having nutrient dense meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, depending on if you're breastfeeding and stuff. But that would be second, because we're getting down to the very bare bone basics. Like people aren't even doing the basics. So who cares about red light and sauna up here that are at like tippy top of wellness world, which I love and do those things, but you have to have these other things first. You can't go jump to, I always say to my kids too, like nobody starts at the top of Everest, right? Like everybody had to take every single step to get there. And it's the same with health. You can't just cheat your way through and get some probiotics and, put on your blue light blocking glasses and watch 4 hours of Netflix a night. Like you're still not going to be healthy.
Yeah. It's not a magic pill. It's not that, workout program that's going to save your life. It's all of the things together. And it's protein, correct me. Protein intake is vital for this stuff, especially if you're in a sleep deprived state. Increasing that protein is really important through your eating hours that you're able to take it in, correct?
100%. And as you know, like being a trainer, I'm sure you've been preaching about protein before it got really popular. You're like, hey, but like 15 years ago, I was telling people to eat protein, and they're like, yeah, I'm not a bodybuilder. So protein is so vital, like so, so, so vital. We build our body, literally every cell, everything about us is built from protein. Carbs don't make cells and our body. And fats make some hormone production, but for the most part, protein is the building blocks, right? So aiming to really get enough protein. And sometimes people say, I have clients who say, oh, I'm pretty sure that I'm eating enough. And I don't advocate for calorie counting or anything, but if you're curious, go and get MyFitnessPal, the free version of the app, plug in for a day the protein you eat, and start to see how many grams you're getting per day. So if you have 2 eggs, by the way, that's 12 grams of protein. That's not nearly enough. No. So you're either going to have to do 3 eggs and some egg whites and cottage cheese and turkey bacon to make that up to 30 or 40 grams per meal. But we're under eating. And when we think we're eating like an egg and a piece of toast and half an avocado for breakfast, it's still incomplete. So I even have a protein meal plan that has 110 grams per day minimum. And I started there because if I would have made it 130, people would be like, the going from eating 50 to 130 is a huge jump. Yeah. Huge. So I have 110 so that it's doable, and it'll actually start making you feel better, sleep through the night, have better recovery, have better hair, skin, nails. More stable blood sugar means less anxiety, less blood sugar drops. So that's another really key point, is having that minimum 100 gram. But if you're hitting that, then moving up from there to 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight.
Yeah. And I'm precision nutrition certified for level 1, and they even teach, like, you might not have your app with you or your food scale or whatever, but you can use your hand for your measurement. And 100%. It's typically the palm of your hand, the thickness of like that meaty part. and that is your 30 grams of meat. If you're to go and just be like, oh, this chicken breast is about that, so that you can navigate your way through, buffets or eating while traveling and those elements too. But getting anyone to increase their protein is super challenging, and it can be a little bit scary, and coming from athlete world too, where it was going from like eating like a normal person to now eating for a muscle building, high production athlete world. You have to start drinking your protein as well into those protein shakes. So let's talk protein shakes, because they're a really good go-to. They're trendy. Everybody wants to have that as an available option. That is a key component to navigating your health story as well. However, there's certain things we should be looking at when we're purchasing that protein. So let's talk about that.
Love that. Firstly, I love protein powder, and there's a subset of people out there that are like, you shouldn't get your protein from protein powder. There's like, I love the Weston A. Price Foundation, but they're like, no, it's still processed. But I am a huge fan of it for a few reasons. Because our lives are so busy, like you said, that we don't always have meal prepped meals to take on the go. And if you are in that rush where you have to go and pick up your child from swimming, from soccer, and your meeting ran late, so you couldn't eat the meal you had prepared, then in that case, throwing like protein powder even into water and running out the door is going to be easier to digest.
Yeah.
So again, we're not in this fight or flight. We're going to sip on it while we're driving, and then it's going to still hold you over until you can eat that meal. So I love it for that convenience, the protein, the blood sugar, and then meeting those protein goals. One thing to always look for, firstly, like 99% of the things that are in not health food stores, but like, I won't name names, but the supplement stores, the ones that are really marketed to the protein powders, 99% of it is garbage and crap that is going to disrupt your gut microbiome. It's going to have ACE K, it's going to have Splenda, sucralose, NutraSweet, erythritol. It's going to have complete crap in it. Okay. And it has artificial flavors. It has questionable ingredients. Usually it has GMO soy in it as a preservative. So I highly recommend looking for grass-fed organic whey if you can handle it. If you can't handle dairy, again, it's a gut issue. It's not just, unless you have an actual allergy where you haven't had dairy since you were like a baby because you have an allergy. But for the most part, if you have problems digesting dairy, then you have a gut issue to look into. But so grass-fed whey for sure. And then if there is a sweetener, that it's stevia or it's unsweetened. Okay. And that has no artificial flavors. So that usually leaves you, yes, you're going to be limited to chocolate, vanilla, or plain for the most part. There is no natural way to get like cotton candy flavor into I know, right? Or like, peanut butter or whatever in the flavor. Usually you need to just add those things yourself. So sticking to those basics, a vanilla, a chocolate, a plain, a whey that's grass-fed, that is stevia sweetened, and then adding, what you want thereafter. And I even like having even a scoop a day. Like, I mean, in order to meet that, if you're looking for 130 or 150 and you haven't meal prepped, it's pretty tough to go in the fridge and you don't open it up and protein's prepared for you. And if it is, it's usually processed, right? Like processed pepperoni sticks or stuff like that. So rather than leaning on that, I would suggest whey protein. And there's another really, really good reason why. Glutathione is our body's master antioxidant, and it's depleted with the use of things like Tylenol, as well as in its everyday job, it's utilized and taken down. Like it's being used and we have to create it. We create it from amino acids, and whey protein is a good source of glutathione. So it can directly help create more glutathione in your body. Okay. And it's one of the sources of it. So when we eliminate that, we're already struggling for good detoxification in the liver. And so if we pack whey, it can be beneficial for that too.
Yeah, that's interesting, because right now, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing like promotions for glutathione in a lot of different realms, or like random people going down to Mexico to get the glutathione injections and stuff like that. Not saying that I'm promoting that at all, but I'm a firm believer that if you can source what you need from proper food and through promoting your body to create what is necessary for survival on a natural production, then that is what we're doing. However, I will agree with you 100%. That protein source is rarely readily available in our fridge. And having lived that crazy life of going from one place to another, and that was without kids, that was just my own life, having access to that protein and having that protein shake as even just an option that was in my bag ready in case the schedule got screwed up. It's also peace of mind. So subconsciously, you know that you're going to be okay, or you're not going to be left starving. So going back to that primitive brain, you know that you have a store ready for you to take you into wherever the next location is going to be, so that you are not going to be having to seek and search out all of the less optimal options to fulfill your nutrition needs as well. So yeah, I'll be a huge proponent for protein powders as well, but I 100% agree. Finding the right sources and making sure that they are produced with health in mind rather than product, or
Flavor.
no, rather than profit, pardon me,
Yeah.
is where the value truly lies.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I wanted to say something going back to the person who goes to their doctor and gets those normal test results, because that's everybody. That's everybody that's currently navigating some form of health issue, and they're just waiting for a diagnosis because they feel like when they get a diagnosis, then they can move forward, then they can, work on it. But often they still find themselves stuck because the doctor recommends medication, they don't want to take it, or they're trialing different doses, or they're waiting for a specialist appointment, and they hold out thinking that the specialist has these magical wand to fix it, but the specialist just has different medications or a little more advanced testing to look further at that same problem with maybe a different magnifying glass, but it's looking at the same thing. So if that's the case, in terms of advocating for yourself, if nothing's coming up, wrong with your blood work and the doctor's saying you're fine, it's really important to go into your appointment being a little bit educated about what could be the issue. Now, it's very touchy because physicians are kind of told that they have all the answers. So if you go in there and say, well, I read online or I heard from this naturopath, that they're gonna immediately shut you down. I've never seen a receptive doctor do that. So, or a doctor even be receptive to that, I should say. So I have a client who was on autoimmune medication and has a rheumatologist and all that. And she went to that doctor and said, like, I'm going to try to not use these medications that I've been on for all these years because I'm working on my lifestyle, my stress. And her doctor was like, okay, good luck, have at her. And she went back months later and was like, I'm off all the medication. I feel great. I have no symptoms. And does the doctor ask, what did you do? This is a miracle. Like, sound the alarm. No. They're like, okay, well, if you need medication again, come back. Yeah. And that's the sad reality. Like, they're not in the world of lifestyle and nutrition medicine. They're in the world of medicine, which is actually pharmaceuticals. So unless you want that to be your option and you want the diagnosis to get a medication that won't address the root cause, it will just try to quell the symptoms so that you can try to live a semblance of a normal life, then you need to look elsewhere. And the problem is, my husband was saying that the problem is in Canada, we're so used to thinking that healthcare is covered, right? Health is covered. You go and anything you need, you get it for free. But really, emergency care is covered. Emergency care and disease diagnosis is covered. Everything else is not. Getting well, getting healthy, getting to the root cause, reversing illness, this is not covered. These are things that you need to invest in. Like, sorry to say, but like every one of us, we have spent in our family probably at this point $15,000 or $20,000 over the last 10, 15 years making ourselves well so that we're not on medication, so we don't have disease, so we know what the problem is, so we've eradicated it, and we'll continue to do those tests out of pocket because we don't want to be a victim to the system and be told we have PCOS or endo or hypothyroid or whatever other insulin resistance, prediabetes, all these other problems that are completely preventable and reversible. So I think it's important to know, are you the person that wants true, vibrant, abundant health? Or are you like, nah, I'd rather live my lifestyle and kind of take some medication and just hate my life a little, but I'm not willing to change? And I'm starting to think, like, honestly, Lisa, I'm starting to think that there are people out there that they don't really want to change.
Oh, 100%. There are people, and we've all met them. We've all met them too. And they almost use whatever the illness or the problem is as a bit of a crutch, as a bit of a way of getting sympathy and additional support. It becomes their identity.
100%. 100%.
And it's from an outsider standpoint, it's really sad to see. But until they are ready, they're not going to make a change and they're not going to seek anything different. However, I have witnessed in some cases if they're surrounded by other people who are working on making those changes, then they slowly start adopting small incremental steps that the people in their circle are doing too. So it all comes back to environment, as you said. Like, yes, your stress environment, how are you eating? Where are you eating? How quickly? How slowly? Who are you hanging out with? Who are you eating with? Who is
Yes.
fueling your stress? Who is encouraging you to go for that, 700-calorie coffee?
Yeah.
When you could just go and get a glass of water instead. But so start identifying those small things, because even having control of, we'll use the digestive system as an example. So yes, it's a vessel that doesn't interact with anything outside of it. Well, you need to start setting up those boundaries as well to protect yourself, so that you're not getting a contamination from an outside source that is now adding to your stressor, or adding to the ailment or the woe is me thinking. And there's so much more involved to it, right? There's a psychological component too.
And I can tell you, like, the women who have a supportive partner, like the one I told you that her fiance lost 7 pounds, they're the advocates you want. They're the partners who are like, I will make the changes with you. Like, I have another lady who's like, she's 60 or something, or 65, and her husband implemented every single thing that she learned in my program. He did it with her, and he's off all his medication, and he's like a whole new person from doing it with her. And that's the kind of support you want. That's the partnership you want in life, somebody to support you. But sometimes when I talk to clients and they're like, oh, my husband would never do this, or my boyfriend would never make these changes, I cross my fingers for them, because I think to myself, it makes your mountain to climb a lot bigger if you come home and you have a partner who's ordering from Skip the Dishes, cracking a beer, sitting on the couch, and scrolling the phone. And here you're trying to eat a meal from scratch, not watch 4 episodes, go upstairs early, take a shower, do a meditation, go to bed on time. You could feel like you're living two separate realities here, and you'll either be disconnected a little bit, or you'll be pulled into what they're doing, the larger grand scheme of it is like, is this a relationship that nourishes your ultimate goals together, or are you growing apart? And health isn't just, how do you get through your day? It trickles into every aspect of your life, So yeah, like, you can't change someone unless they're willing to change, but that change can be so much easier if you have support, strategy, and you have a partner or people around you that support you. Like, I remember when I was in nursing school, I always had a sweet tooth. Well, I thought I had a sweet tooth. Really, it was a mask for gut dysbiosis. So every day in nursing school, in my first year at the hospital, they make these amazing puffed wheat squares. I don't remember if they make them anymore, but so it's like typical puffed wheat, like corn syrup, GMO wheat, and I think that's it, right? And then cocoa. And it was like this big, like legit huge, like a size of my head. And then I just have one a day and pick at it. And I ate really healthy food. Like, I would bring salads with protein, like all that kind of thing. But then I'd always have this puffed wheat square. And I remember this girl who was like my friend in my nursing group. She was like, why do you always eat so healthy? And she kind of called me out in front of our whole like nursing circle. And I kind of felt like, and then I felt like I had to almost say I didn't. I was like, I don't. Like, look, I eat this puffed wheat square every day. Like, and so I felt she was like shaming me for actually doing the right thing for my body, like, and having balance, like having this puffed wheat square and then my salad and my chicken is balanced as far as I'm concerned when I'm 20 years old. And so it always stuck with me that I was like, it bugged me so much then, because you will have people in your life who don't want the best for you. They don't want to see you thrive and shine. And this particular person had weight issues. She had weight issues and she had self-esteem issues, but her projection onto me was like, why do you always eat a salad? Like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm eating a puffed wheat square the size of my head, so I'm pretty sure I gotta find the balance here somewhere. So yeah, like, making sure that your friends are truly your friends. And if they're like, what do you mean you're not going to have a drink out tonight? Or, and if they're not cool with you ordering like a mocktail at a restaurant, or that you have to go home early, or you want to go for a walk with a tea instead of, sitting at the cafe or whatever, then maybe find people that are more aligned with your new goals and your values to help you live a life that really gives back to you, because at the end of the day, you're the one living with your body and your problems.
Or most importantly, even though they might say that, don't back down because of them. Still stick to what you know to be good for you and right for you and your choices. That's like two moms talking to their kids right now. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
remember I played basketball, and it was high school, and we went to, it was an away game, and we stopped to go get dinner at A&W to eat on the bus on the way back. And I was so grumpy. I'm like, they don't have salads here. I just want a salad. I don't want a stupid. And I was made fun of so much, but I was like, no, that is what my body craves after any physical exertion, is like that salad healthy thing. And I don't even know if I ate anything, but they pulled it up as a comment about me in the athlete awards at the end of the year, because it
Really?
was so
Oh,
different,
wow.
right? It was so out of character for a high school student. Totally fine. But knowing what you want and knowing what's right for you and what you yourself needs is super important too, because that is your body. If you can understand and listen what you're craving, that is your body telling you exactly what you need. And it's the same as if you go to the doctor and the doctor says you're perfectly fine, but there is a niggling sense where you're like, no, something's off. That is your instinct. That is your body telling you you need to dive deeper. And there's nothing wrong with advocating for yourself further based on what you know to be true within yourself, because ain't nobody else understand what's going on inside of you.
100%. Like I always tell my clients, like, I'm not the expert of your health. Like, you're the expert of your body. You wake up with it every day. You know what makes it feel good and what doesn't. Maybe you haven't been paying attention to that, but if you ultimately learn how it works, then you can learn what it takes to thrive. And the problem is, I think that we're taught to think that it's optional if you're like interested in health, right? Like, oh, I'm not very interested in health. Like, I just need to know what I need to know and move on. But I really think that in terms of advocacy, you need to learn about your body and you need to know how it works. It's not an option to not understand. Like, you wouldn't own a vehicle, like a truck, and then, or a car, and then expect to do all the service on it, would you? Like, no, you wouldn't, right? You would outsource some of it because you're not a mechanic. So you say you have this vehicle, and just like the vehicle of your body, if that was the vehicle you had to live in and there was no such thing as a mechanic to go to, you would know that car inside and out, right? You would be like, I need to know how to change the oil, change the tires. I need to know how to, put gas in it, all these steps. And yet when it's our bodies, which is this vehicle we live in, we're just like, I'm just going to go over there and see if that guy over there can tell me what's going on inside my body. And it's like, but you need to know how it operates. Like, what is the operating system? What is affecting what? How is your stress affecting your digestion and your hormones? How is fasting? Is it appropriate for you right now? Like, and the knowledge and the information is abundantly out there. But the problem is that women don't have a streamlined access point for it. So they're pulling at strings, right? Like, they're like, I learned this little thing there. I'm grabbing this free download over here. And they're trying to piece it together, but they're still not moving forward. They're like jamming their brains with information, but on how to take care of this machine of theirs, but they're not doing it in a comprehensive, organized way. So they're feeling more overwhelmed. I find that it leads to more overwhelm. But your body is your machine, it's your vehicle, and you really need to know how to operate it. Because, if there was, say someone really knew how to work on a whatever vehicle, and then there was a completely different model, like an import here, they might know some crossover, but there might be some things that one person doesn't know about the other person's vehicle, right? Like, everyone has to know their own body and their own vehicle, because we're all bio-individual. Just like our fingerprint, our gut is the exact same differentiator. So no two people in the world have the same fingerprint, and no two people in the world have the same gut microbiome. So no two people are going to eat the exact same diet or take the same probiotic or have the same gut tests. And so every single one of those people going to their doctor looking for answers, when we run gut tests on them, there's never been two people with the exact same gut microbiome ever in history, because their exposure, their nutrition, their stress, how they came into the world, the health of their mother, were they vaginal born, C-section, did they take antibiotics, have they taken drugs? These things impact the gut, and we can see them in testing. And then we can create a custom protocol, which is what I do. So we can reduce that inflammation. We can teach you how to eat for blood sugar, how to eat adequate protein, how to support your sleep, your stress, your hormones, so that the puzzle pieces come together. So when you go to your doctor, you know what their limitations are. You know what you're gonna get from them. And you know that they don't know as much as you do, truly. After you start to educate yourself, you will know more than they do about your health. Because they don't learn preventative health. They don't learn health promotion. They don't know how to reverse illness. They know medication. That's what they study, is disease and medication.
Yeah. So frustrating that that is actually all they study, but it is true.
Yes.
And I mean, so then, yeah, the next step is, or the first step is, like Shakespeare said, know thyself,
Yeah.
and really what sets you off. And you could do, if it's a food thing, you can do an elimination diet and then a reintroduction diet, right? Like if you're unwilling to go to the practitioners such as yourself who are ready and willing to be helping people and walk them through this stuff, you could try and testing eliminating something and then bringing it back in. I'm not saying it's going to work, but it might at least help you identify, when I eat this, I feel like this. And then you can either limit or reduce what it is until you get other things sorted. But yeah, you got to learn about yourself first, and don't be embarrassed about it. I don't know why. I feel like we've hit a point where people are almost, like you said, shamed for having that awareness or for choosing to walk this path that they walk, be it healthy eating. We're almost celebrated for the junk food stuff because it falls under that marketing, I don't know, propaganda that we've been unaware of how much it's impacting our life and day-to-day choices. But don't be afraid of figuring out who you are and how your body responds to various different things. What time of night do you actually need to go to sleep too? Because your body has a natural circadian rhythm that it wants to stick with, but you have to honor it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and when people, they see this like, oh, 30-day fix or whatever. And it's like, how could one program be the thing that unites us all when every single one of us is different? And people go into that thinking, yeah, it's going to help me with IBS and it's going to help her with PCOS and it's going to help. And, they're shooting for these surface level strategies like probiotics or cutting out all these foods for long term, or, I'm going to take this new colostrum, or I'm going to take AG1, or they're doing all these things that it's like your body doesn't have a deficiency of AG1. Your body's not just missing this one little thing, and then your body will miraculously, like a golden glow will come over it and it will heal. Like, that's not how it happens. And what I really advocate for is rebuilding the foundation. So just like a house, if a house was kind of in shambles, then we wouldn't just be like, let's just throw some paint on it, like it'll fix it. If the walls are caving in and the windows are shattered, then throwing paint on it's not going to matter. So we have to rebuild it. And so inside my program, there's 2 phases. And that first phase is the 8 weeks of really rebuilding. So everything we talked about: sleep, nutrition, blood sugar, protein, stress, nighttime routine, lifestyle, supplements, whey protein, like all the things you need to know so that you have this foundation for the rest of your life. And now we could layer on a gut healing plan by looking at what bacteria in there are creating inflammation, what bacteria are holding on to too much estrogen, what bacteria in there are making it hard to digest certain foods. How's your gallbladder enzymes looking? Like, we can look at your internal body by looking at your gut microbiome, and then you can truly restore your health. But it's not just one thing, and people, I think, always want to think it's like one thing, but it's really not.
It's everything.
Everything. Yeah, it's puzzle pieces. It's puzzle pieces.
100%. And I mean, that's life, right? Life isn't solved by one thing. It isn't, you don't all of a sudden magically go into like the lap of luxury by doing just one thing. And so how do you think that your health is going to be the exact same aspect where it's just one miracle move that you make and everything's great? And then the other thing is, the hard reality is, we might solve one thing, another thing might show up too. And so that's just how it goes too. But you already have the tools to start working with that new thing.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that everything's interconnected. So sometimes I just did a Find Your Root Cause workshop last week, and I went into different categories, like hormone wise, energy wise, adrenals, all that. thyroid, and gut. And I said to the ladies at the beginning that this doesn't mean you have like 7 separate issues. These issues all stem from the same place, inflammation or stress, but you need to rebuild a foundation. So when you do something beneficial for one thing, it's going to help you in another way. Just like if you get that morning sun, it's going to help your energy levels and productivity during the day and digestion, but it's also going to help you sleep. Say you get more sleep, it's going to help you feel, have less cravings during the day. It's going to make your system stronger so you don't get sick when your kids come home with their cough and cold. You know, like everything you do, it trickles out and has such a great after effect. And that's the beauty of the body being so interconnected. So we don't need to worry about like, I need to do this thing for that and that thing for that. And now I have this problem. Do anything that's good for you, and it's going to benefit you in a multitude of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, earlier on, we touched on like the dental realm. So how is that connected into dental health?
Oh my gosh, so good. So our oral microbiome, like our mouth, it actually has more species of bacteria than our gut does.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of bacteria living in here. Like, and if you think about our tongue, you know how it has these little like papules on it, like these little like dots? Imagine each of those dots is like the cap of a mushroom. So you know how it has the cap and then it has a little stem. So there's all of those little dots are little caps of mushroom you could think about, and underneath them lives bacteria. Okay. So depending on the health of your gut microbiome, what you eat, what you're exposed to, the strength of your immune system, then you will have either a very unhealthy oral microbiome or a healthy microbiome. So this microbiome, you're swallowing, I think it's like 2 liters of saliva a day into your stomach and gut. So if you have gut issues, you probably have oral health issues. And in my program, we work on oral health too, because it's the starting place of bacteria entering the body. And it can either be a contributor to dental cavities, bad breath, H. pylori. So, you know, people who, you know, those people that they have bad breath all the time, like maybe a friend, and you never want to hurt their feelings, so you don't say anything, but you're like, oh, and you kind of keep your distance. Or maybe it's even your partner, your husband, your spouse, but it's coming from inside. It's either coming from inside up, or it's living in the oral microbiome, and it is impacting your immune system, your gut microbiome. It's contributing to the gut issues, bloating, indigestion, poor immunity. So it's really important to have a healthy oral microbiome, which means no fluoride. Right? We're killing off good bacteria. It means, you know, things like tongue scraping, right? Removing any ama, it's called in Ayurveda, removing any film that builds over the night that your body's detoxifying in your mouth.
Okay, so tongue scraping's good.
It's fantastic. Yeah, scrape your tongue in the morning and take the film off, and then brush your teeth, and then making sure you're not doing any like Listerine or anything that kills bacteria in the mouth. And then I usually have women go through like a dental detox kind of thing. Like they change their toothbrush, they change their paste, they do these things to change the oral microbiome so that we can do all the stuff down here in the intestines. But if we didn't change here, then they're still going to be swallowing down the excess strep mutants or whatever it is down into the gut, and or having, you know, constant strep and ear, nose, and throat infections from overgrowth of bacteria in the mouth.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's interesting. So, and then when it comes to, I guess, if you have healthy bacteria, then obviously you have a healthier set of dental work as well, because that your teeth are porous, the roots are porous, so that bacteria is not getting down in there and stuck.
100%. More so our gums and the gap between our teeth. And if you have any dental issues, it's a direct stream to your bloodstream. Like it's a direct line to your bloodstream. So that's why it's very easy to get sick from a root canal gone bad that you might not know about. Because if there's bacteria living under here and the bacteria is festering and it's continuously in your bloodstream. Remember how we talked about nothing gets through unless it's through your gut, a damaged gut, right? Unless it's through a damaged gut. So you're either swallowing that bacteria and it's going into your blood, or it has a direct line through an abscess or a dental issue. And now you're getting bacteria in the blood and your blood's mounting a response. Now your immune system's heightened. Now, and then it gets run down if you don't address it. So your immune system gets tired out. The army goes, nah, we've seen this for years. we're tired out. And then you might get diagnosed with a condition. You might have chronic fatigue. You might have hives. You might have problems with like histamine. You might have all kinds of problems that you don't have answers to, but they could be stemming from this overactivation of the immune system or from a chronic infection that you have no idea you have.
Okay, cool. All right, so tongue scrapers, go find them.
And then working with a holistic dentist, actually, that you mentioned that because I was just looking into it for Calgary, like close to where we live, right? And there's a couple in the Northwest, and I was gonna, next time I need to go to dentist, go there, even though it's quite the jaunt from where we live in the South. But when I go to my regular dentist, I don't do the unnecessary things, right? There is no fluoride, there's no painting your teeth, there's no sealant. There's none of that. There's scale the teeth, remove any plaque that's there, and I'm good. I'll let you know if I feel like I have a cavity, kind of a thing. But it's hard to be healthy because it's bucking the norm of what everyone else is doing. And,
totally.
And that's
yeah. And then you're going against for these practitioners, it's what they've been trained. And you're now challenging what their education system is as well. If you're, even just saying no thank you to the fluoride treatment, that's what they have known, and that has been part of it. And yes, it's an upsell in their, whole menu of options available, but you are going against, or you're challenging what their education and their understanding of good health is too. And so it's not that it's the wrong, it's just that our understanding is different. And one day, at one point, biological dentistry or natural dentists, like the dentist industry was trying to shut them down and strip them of all of their accreditation because it was against everything that the College of Dentists put out and tried to teach. But it clearly has a place because it is working for people too, especially in the name of just removing those mercury fillings. Like some of the success stories for that and how it has just changed people's lives has been incredible to learn from my own personal standpoint too. So
yeah. And because you don't want to go to like a regular dentist and have them pop those out because you'll have all that mercury exposure. So you do want to go to someone trained to do that. But yeah, like it's just so important to advocate for yourself if something's not right with your health. If you're not feeling good, your body's meant to feel good. It's intended to be this well-oiled machine. If it's not a well-oiled machine, then we have to work backwards and figure out where are we going wrong? What facet of health, what aspect of your lifestyle, your environment, your nutrition, your health, your body, your gut, where are we going wrong? And what can we do to bring your body back to health? Because nobody's stuck with their genetics, or sorry, you are stuck with your genetics, but you have control over them. It's called epigenetics. You can either turn them on or off with the lifestyle you live. And so, 90% of what you do is dependent, or how your health is dependent on you. And there's a cop out that it's our genes or we're just bad luck, like some people might want to tell you. It's just absolutely not true. You're never stuck and you're never, stuck suffering. Like, please don't. Answers exist, and it's just a matter of you. Again, if you're not going to find the answers in the mainstream system, is it going to cost you to see a practitioner? Yeah. Is it going to cost you in other ways to change your life? Probably. Depends on how bad you want your life back and how bad you want adventure, and to be able to say yes to travel and not be, restricted in your life and your nutrition and what you're going to order at the restaurant, or if you can wear a bathing suit, or if you can go do that new that hike that your friends want to do, or whatever it is. It's really about, do you have the body, the mind, and the spirit to do the things you want to do in this one life we have? And it just saddens me that so many people are willing to live this crappy life, this mediocre life, because they just don't know, or they don't want to find answers. It's sad.
Yeah, I agree. And I can't imagine, like, even if it is an expense to be able to eliminate the need to live off of pills and other drugs and their expenses, or even just the fact of having to take them. If you can eliminate that, then why not? Why not take that risk so that your return on investment is you have a more free life? Now you're just choosing to supplement with healthy supplements instead of, having to go to the pharmacy every month to refill your prescription for XYZ item.
100%. And the reason why I know this and I'm so passionate about not being that victim is because I've seen it thousands and thousands of times, right? Where you're on prescriptions and there you go for life. And those people have a hard time traveling and all that. But when I was in nursing school, or even when I was like in my, maybe even out in the world, like working in cancer care and stuff, you would see people in like their 60s, I mean 60s, that are like bedridden on medications. They can't even walk to the bathroom, bedridden. And I'm like, and I don't have grandparents, so I didn't have a frame of reference for how old the 60-year-old should appear and what they should be able to do. So I would be like thinking, like, I would be like, 20 and thinking, this person is 60 and like they can't even go to the bathroom. Like, I thought that everyone's trying to retire at 65 so that they can like go travel to Italy. Like, and here this person can't even get up. And that's the sad reality, is that we may have a longer lifespan because machines and medication can keep you in a demented state in a care home from like 75 to 85. But the quality of those years is next to nothing. They're not traveling. They're not living their life. They're not doing fun things. They're not living independently. They've lost a lot of their freedom. And I was like, I don't want to be that person. And so I met my husband, whose mom's 73, and she's on no medications, walking, talking, driving, doing all these things. And I thought, oh, hallelujah. People can actually be healthy, like in their elderly age. And right now she's in Taiwan. She's like hiking and snorkeling off the beaches in Taiwan with a friend, and she's 73. Amazing. So it's like, I don't want to be the 60-year-old debilitated. And if people don't make changes, and if they want to live the mainstream life, the sedentary, the Netflix, the weight gain, the chronic pain, the medications, Tylenol, Advil at every turn, then I hate to say it, but I have to put the message out there. You're going to be that 60-year-old bedridden, I guarantee, because your body is trying so hard to put you back together like Humpty Dumpty, but you keep falling off. Yeah. You keep making it hard. And it doesn't have to be hard. You're not stuck. You're not stuck. You're not stuck broken. You can put yourself back together. You just need a strategy, a plan, and really a commitment to your future.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really hope that we have a day where people stop waiting for that medical diagnosis to make a change in their life. Just if you know something's not right, and I'm sorry, we all know when we're not living well, just go make the change now and grasp it, so then you can actually live your life in what could be some of the best years before you retire. Stop waiting for retirement too, right? Because if you're not healthy and not prepared physically to be healthy when you're retired, then you're not going to be there. And that's
100%. And I'll share this little story. I was working with a nurse, and like maybe 6 years ago, she said to me, we were going to Hawaii, and I said, oh, have you been? And she's like maybe 60. So this was like 5 years ago, and she was 65 years ago. And she said, oh no, we're going to wait probably 5 more years until my husband and I retire. The very next year, her husband had a heart attack, a massive heart attack. And now he's on like 5 medications, and it's hard for them to travel. And so I caught up with her a few years later and knew she had all this stress going on. And I was like, have you guys gone on the trip yet? No, they haven't, because now they have all this medical insurance and all this worry in case something happens. And I'm like, this is why you do not take your health for granted. Like, stop waiting until you're retired or waiting till later to figure it out. If you're not healthy enough to do the things you want to do today, then it's only going to get way harder then. Yeah. It's only your mobility, your strength, your muscle mass, your brain function, your immune function, your hormones, everything's just going to get harder. So the sooner you solve it, the easier it will be,
Yeah. I mean, and if you want to be super practical, it also makes getting health insurance harder and life insurance harder too. So, like, just honestly, it should be a goal, like, to treat your body like the temple that it is, because you only have one, and taking care of it and honoring it the way it should be honored, with that proper rest, good food, ensuring that you have the professionals behind you supporting you in that, and that you're constantly learning and educating yourself and being educated by other really smart people to be able to know what the next steps might be for that same healthy living as you go through the different stages of life as well, being 30 years old to perimenopausal to menopausal. And men, you go through hormone changes too. So you need to understand that you have to prepare yourself for those hormone changes as you age as well.
Yeah. And like, so many men have, male pattern baldness, they get the gut, and then they get the, whatever it is, problems in the bedroom, and they lose their muscle mass too, right? Sarcopenia is a real thing for all of us human beings. So I can see it, like, just walking around in public. I can see men that I'm like, it's got a hormone problem. Like, and if he would do something like lift heavy weights, invest in a personal trainer if you don't know how, eating enough protein, balancing your blood sugar. It is so much easier for men. I say to my husband all the time, I'm like, if men knew how easy they had it, literally lift heavy weight. They could wake up at 5:30, 24/7, 365 for their whole life. Okay, wake up at 5:30, lift heavy weights, eat protein, go about your day and get enough sleep. You'll be in perfect health.
Yep.
It is truly that easy for men because their hormones are not nearly as complex as women. So think about the struggle we have. We have all the complexities of hormone changes, and they have this relatively stable base of testosterone, and they only have to look at muscle decline and blood sugar, and boom, they're in good health, minding that their digestion and their gut health is good, like all humans, but like for the most part, they have it way easier.
Yeah. When I was a coach, I did sometimes get like that husband-wife duo, and they would come in and I'd be like, okay, so we're going to start. And yes, you guys are doing this together, but husband, you can't be a jerk to your wife because you're going to see the changes a whole lot faster. 30 days, you're going to see it. Wife, I'm sorry, it's going to take longer. And that's just the way it is. You could be doing the exact same thing, but the timing is going to be different and you need to accept it. And it's like, liar, that's not going to happen. We're going to be just fine. 30 days in, we're going to go for private sessions because we can't do this beside each other anymore because it's just like too much frustration. And said, I warned you, but that's the way it is. Yeah, men have it easier in those regards. I'm sure there's other areas where they struggle too. And I'm not one to speak on any of that, but yeah, if we could just support each other to make the changes together and work collaboratively within our household and even within our peer circles, as we've discussed, then we are all setting ourselves up for so much success and potentially really vibrant, ages or lives and experiences at 50, 60, 70, like your mother-in-law too, right? And how amazing is that?
Yeah. It's like we have this one life, and it's, you got to either live it or be on the sidelines, is what I say. Being an athlete, I say, like, there's so many bystander moms, I call them. Like, they're always on the side, right? Like, they're on the side at the playground, they're on the side at the soccer field, they're on the side at the pool, they're on the side at the beach. Like, they're always just observing, and they're never living and making the memories and having the experiences because it's pain or it's confidence or it's digestive issues or it's mood issues, holding them back. And it's like these things don't have to hold you back. So please don't let them. Just seek out the support you need and get back in the game is kind of what I say. Like, and you being an athlete too, it's like the game is so much more fun than being on the side.
Way more fun. And it also makes the time there worth your while. So you're not feeling like you're killing time, or you don't get stuck in the like classic, everybody pulls out their phone and starts staring at that instead. Because how empty can that feel, right? So there's so many components to it, but yeah, take it back and take control. And I mean, step one, develop some really healthy sleep hygiene processes and get to those sleep routines. And even on the weekend, you need to stick to those routines. It's not because it's Friday night, you get to stay up till midnight. Your body likes routine and consistency, and it needs to happen. Yeah.
100%. I read recently that if you sleep in on the weekend, like Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday morning, and stay up late the night before, then on Monday, when you try to wake up 2 or 3 hours earlier, you're literally going into jet lag every week of your life.
Yeah.
It's like you just returned from a trip and you're back on a different time zone. So you can see how hard that would be for your digestive system to normalize, for your energy levels, your cortisol, and your productivity. So we have to do better, and within 30 minutes, 60 minutes, I get it, but not much more than that for night and waking.
Yeah, definitely. And oh my gosh, that's a whole nother conversation. Healthy living for people who live on or work on shift work or are flight attendants or pilots, right? Like, that's a whole different demand on the system. And I've watched nurses on shift work and they're not healthy just based on the way the sleep pattern is alone.
Yeah, they're not. There's no two ways about it. It's not good for your body.
No, not at all. Oh, this has been amazing, Ninu. Thank you so much. I learned so much every single time that I get to talk to you, and I want to express my gratitude for you coming on again and just kind of helping express some of the foundations that people can do for navigating the health system on their own and knowing that they are empowered to be able to take control rather than waiting for the doctor diagnosis for things.
Yeah, absolutely. It was such a pleasure chatting with you too. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.